Have you ever heard the old adage, what do confused people do, with the answer being absolutely nothing? And just to be politically correct about this, let's not talk about being confused, let's talk about having fuzzy thinking. Because people who've got fuzzy thinking tend to do things in a fuzzy way, and doing things in a fuzzy way leads to fuzzy results. So the question we're going to look at in this video is, how can you unfuzz your thinking? And to answer that question, let's look at a coaching session that I did recently with a lady who works in network marketing. Now, this isn't only applicable to people who work in that industry, because what we're really looking at is what was the process that we used to move her from having fuzzy thinking to having clarity of thinking. And once you understand the process, once you know the steps involved, you can apply them to your own thinking. So as we look at this, look at the steps and think about any difficulties or challenges that you might be having at the moment. And as we do that, you might just get a few light bulb moments as we go. We started out with a very simple question. What do you want? And she answered it in the same way that a lot of people do with a shopping list. And that included things like, I want to get out of my own way. I want to stop what's holding me back. I want to get over my fear of failure, and I want to get back on track. And these things sound great, don't they? But what do they actually mean? They don't mean anything. If you said to me, Tony, I've dropped my pencil, can you help me pick it up? Yes, I can, because I know exactly what you want. If you say to me, Tony, can you help me get out of my own way? I can't help you with that because I don't know what it means. So for the rest of this video, what we're going to do is look over that coaching session. We'll look at the key questions that I asked and what got us to those key questions, and I'll add my own commentary as we go. Part one is get specific. We've got to take that shopping list and we've got to get it down to just one item. So the question that I ask is, if you could resolve any one of those issues today, which one would it be? And she said, I'd like to stop what's holding me back. And that's brilliant, because we've got just one thing to work with now. So the next thing we've got to do is we've got to take what is really just a sound bite and we've got to find out what that really means. Step two is take abstract concepts and turn them into concrete steps. So the question is, what do you want? What is it that you're not doing that you'd like to be doing? Or what is it that you are doing and you'd like to stop doing? And she said, I've not been picking up the phone to call people to make appointments to go and see them. Perfect! Now we're breaking it down and I understand what she wants, and we've moved on from I need to stop what's holding me back to I'm not making enough phone calls. I think it was Einstein who said, if you can't explain something to a 10-year-old, then you don't understand it yourself. And this is one of the ways we can help people to clarify their thinking, or we can help ourselves to clarify our own thinking. Is what we're describing something that could be understood by a 10-year-old? And I don't think your average 10-year-old would know what it means when you say, I'm holding myself back. But they do know what it means if you say, I'm not making enough phone calls. Step three, identify the limiting beliefs, possibly the most important step of the process. This is the why is she not taking the action? Very, very simple question, and it's one that we can and probably should be asking ourselves on a regular basis. What is it that I'm assuming? What assumptions am I making? What am I believing to be true? And I would have asked her along the lines of, if you think about making a phone call, what do you think is going to happen? And she told me that she thinks that she's going to forget what she's saying, to not know what to say to people, and that they're going to say no to her anyway. So bingo! Now we've got two limiting beliefs here. We've moved on from I've got to stop what's holding me back. We've got it down to I'm not picking up the phone to call people, and now we know why she's not calling them, and that's because she thinks she's going to forget what she's saying, or they're going to say no to her. Step four is about getting rid of the limiting beliefs, and very often it's the simplest way is to find a counterexample. Now when we're working with limiting beliefs, it's not about smashing them to pieces with a sledgehammer. Very often it's about just introducing a little bit of doubt. So ask the question, is it true that you won't know what to say to people? And she said, well actually, I'm good at making conversation. Once I get going, I enjoy it. Bingo! That limiting belief's now gone, or it's starting to go. Because there's two things here. One is I'm good at making conversation with people, and the other is I won't know what to say. And they can't both be true. And the fact that she's just told me that she's good at making conversation, it's diminished this one a little bit. Now, she might not understand that consciously, but it's something that will be picked up on subconsciously, and that's starting to get rid of the limiting belief. Now, notice, I did not tell her what to think. I didn't say, well, yeah, you seem good at making conversation. She told me, and that's when it becomes really powerful. There's a bit of a caveat here. Without ongoing coaching, or if she's self-coaching without being aware of this for a while, she could reinstall this belief, because after all, she created it in the first place. Without accepting and understanding how the belief was created, it is something that can be reinstated. So let's look at the second part of that belief. I believe that people are going to say no to me. So I asked the question, do you believe that people are going to say no? And she said, well, yes, actually I do. A lot of people who've been in the industry for a long time tell me that more people will say no than say yes. And I think it's probably true. And I said, well, from what I know about network marketing, it probably is true. And notice here that I'm not disagreeing with her. I'm not trying to tell her that she's wrong. And by agreeing with her, that's going to create better rapport. And if you are coaching with other people, then having that deep rapport is really the key to what makes coaching work. So we found out that this belief is probably true, that more people will say no to her than say yes. But it's still a limiting belief, because actually it's not very helpful to approach picking up the phone with the thought in your head that they're probably going to say no to you. Step 5, the reality check, is a very important step. Does the person really want to be doing what they say they want to be doing, or is it somebody else's aspiration for them? So the question in this case was very, very simple. Knowing what you know now, that more people will say no than say yes, do you really want to be doing network marketing? Very quickly she said, yes, I do. I just need to get better at it. And what's important here as well is, are the non-verbals matching the verbals? The verbals are, yes, I want to be doing it. The non-verbals were, she answered quickly and she answered it confidently. If she'd taken a long time to answer and said, well, yes, I want to be doing network marketing, the words say yes, but the non-verbals say no. If that's the case, always trust the non-verbals. Part 6 is about coming up with alternatives. What she used to do was think about making phone calls and then spend her time worrying about what might happen. So now we've got to find out what she's going to do instead. And she came up with quite a few ideas, perhaps saying positive affirmations to herself, perhaps thinking about times she'd called people and they'd said yes, perhaps smiling before she picked up the phone, or perhaps thinking about her goals, why she wanted to be doing this in the first place. Then after a few minutes, she came out with something beautiful. She said, when I pick up the phone, they might say yes and they might say no. It doesn't matter. The only thing that's important is that I do the activity and that I enjoy doing the activity, because the more I enjoy it, the more I'm going to learn from it. And that's a wonderful belief for her to have going into making that phone call. It's also a very simple belief. And there's a great axiom here: if it's not simple, it's probably not the right answer. And what makes this even more powerful is, again, this is not something I fed to her. These are words that she came out with herself. Step 7 is install and strengthen the belief. Very simple process. It's about getting her to imagine herself in the future doing the new activity. In NLP speak, we call this future pacing. It's a very subtle but very powerful technique that locks in the learning. Let me know in the comments if it's something that you'd like to hear more about in future videos. My final comment was, brilliant insight, so what are you going to do differently? And she said she was going to use this as an affirmation. And so we got her to imagine herself in the future, before she made any phone calls, using this as an affirmation. Now, notice here that we're not getting her to imagine herself in the future and people saying yes to her, because that's the part that we don't have any control over. The part that we have control over is the fact that she is now going to pick up the phone and call people. And as a result, she went home, she called a few people, and she made some appointments for the next week. So what can you get out of this? A lot of things, and hopefully your brain's already working. But if you only take one thing away from this video, take the question, what am I assuming? What assumptions am I making? It's a question that will help you out in all kinds of situations. Don't forget to put your comments in the box below so I know what kind of content you'd like me to be creating. And don't forget to tell your friends about the Mindset Academy. To sum up, this is a very simple process that you can use to take your thinking from fuzzy thinking to clarity of thinking. You can use it for yourself for self-coaching, or if you have coaching conversations with other people, you can use the process with them as well. And here's a reminder of the steps that we went through.